There are a lot of businesses that also respond to the world's needs. So I'm not saying that every business is like this, but still also these companies might look at their kind of environment and the network and the ecosystem too narrowly. So it's more about fixing symptoms than the real root causes.
Welcome to WITT. Hi, I'm Megan. I talk with founders, investors and operators working in tech. My aim is to inspire you with their stories and perspectives. Through this podcast, I want to amplify the voice of women working in tech. If you want to support WITT, then make sure you follow us on your favourite podcasting app. Then you won't miss any future episodes. Today's guest is Michaela, a leading sustainability strategist, executive coach and founder of WhyCo. She's driving change through future-fit businesses. Let's jump in. Hi, Michaela. Welcome to WITT. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Hi, Megan. It's really great to be here.
Awesome. I would love to kick off our conversation with a lightning round. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
Let's get right into it. So, easy question at the beginning. Finish summer or finish winter?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I actually love these seasons.
Yeah. Second question. What's one leader you truly admire?
There are really many of them, but I think one person that I noticed coming back to over and over again is Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay. I like it. And then if you had to choose one book that everyone in the world would have to read, what would it be?
That's also a tough question because there are many books that would be really important. But I think that one book that was really transformative for myself, I would say that it somehow made things really click and understand or help me understand why society looks like it looks today. So I would really love everyone to read the book called Regenerative Leadership, written by Laura Storm and Giles Hutchins.
Lovely. And then what superpower would you love to have?
What superpower I would love to have? I would love to be able to sing. I can't sing, and I would really love to sing, and I think that it could be a superpower.
I love that. That is really good. Honestly, lovely. And then what's one risk that you took that you're really proud of?
I don't call it a risk anymore, but it was a risk back then. It was listening to my heart and my curiosity in my work, that kind of what do I really want to work with. So being led by my curiosity instead of being led by some sort of either what is right, what should I do, or some sort of outside pressure.
Okay. And then is it harder to change mindsets or systems?
I think it's harder to change mindsets than systems. That's a really great question, actually.
Yeah, it's a hard question as well.
Yeah.
Seventh question. If you could time travel to any point in your career, when would it be and why, obviously?
Actually, I would stay here.
You would stay here?
Where I am now.
Strong, I like it.
Yeah.
A fun little one is, would you rather have a coffee, shop meeting or a walk and talk meeting?
Definitely a walk and talk meeting.
Yeah, I like them. What's one big problem you believe will be solved in your lifetime?
I believe and hope, but I also believe actually right now, especially in the past months, I'm even more confident that humankind will somehow manage to transform its way of operating from how it is operating now, to really kind of transform and change it to something that lifts us up instead of instead of puts us down like it does right now.
Okay, nice, like it. And then the last question for the lightning round, which is, if you had to describe your entrepreneurial journey or just your journey in 3 emojis, what would they be and why?
I think the first one would be the kind of the just a regular smiley. Because as I said, I've followed my curiosity and I'm really happy about it. So I'm quite happy, and I'm happy where I am now. And I believe that I wouldn't be this happy with my kind of journey, professional journey and entrepreneurship if I wouldn't have done that. The second one would be a heart, because I followed my heart as well. And I love what I do. And I also believe that I should myself work through love. I really care and love the people and all the species I'm working with, actually, not just people, but everyone I work with. And the last one would be a tree.
A tree?
Because in a tree, I see both the roots and the trunk and the leaves and everything. And I think that's all needed for me to be here where I am.
I like it. Very interesting, very inspiring. But thank you so much for answering my lightning round questions. And we're going to now move on to your journey, right?
Yeah.
So your career is super interesting, but in the beginning you spent, like beginning of your career, you spent a lot of time in law, right?
Yeah.
And then you moved into sustainability with the Baltic Sea Group. But before we dive into what you're doing now, I would like to go back further, right? So how do you think your childhood shaped you into the person you are today? Or your earlier experiences?
Yes, I think, well, I mentioned curiosity. I think that was something that I had or received very early on. And also being quite passionate. My both parents are quite passionate people, and they've always been quite active, also kind of outside of their regular work. So I think that was something that I believe I grew up with, a belief that I can make an impact in the world, because I saw that my parents were doing it. So they were kind of making an impact in the world, and I saw that I believe now that I can actually do it myself. So I think that's a quite important red thread. And then in terms of, especially I think sustainability came quite strongly into my life already as a young lawyer, especially through my father. He's been like, I remember as a small child already, he was talking about energy saving, and we repaired everything that was broken instead of buying new and all of these. And he was quite conscious of, especially in terms of resource use. And both of my parents are really kind of 100% nature people. So I've been spending a lot of time already from a really small baby in nature, in Lapland, in the archipelago, in Finland, in forests. So I think these are those things that form me quite much and that I carry with me also now.
Okay, lovely. Makes a lot of sense. And then you talked about, so your pursuit of law and initially working in, I believe, a very impressive Finnish firm, and which I would struggle to pronounce, so I'm not going to. So apparently they focused on competitive law. So did a lot with mergers and acquisitions, I believe. But what drew you to that legal profession? What did you learn?
I've been thinking about it a lot actually in the past years, because I think that there was a reason for me actually starting with law, and law was something that I decided to pursue very early on. I was in the 8th grade when I was like, okay, I'm going to become an attorney at the big law firm in Helsinki. And that was like my North Star then. That was, this is what I want to do. And then I became that lawyer in that big law firm in Helsinki and enjoyed my work. But then at some point, quite early on, I was like, but I might need actually something more, even more kind of a societal perspective. At the law firm, I worked very much with competition law, which is a very societal form of law. It's very much politics as well. And So I think that was already one sign of me needing something more than strictly just law. Law is a very societal education as well, but working in a big law firm in Helsinki might not be that, or it was not enough for me. So I was like, okay, I need something more. I can't stay here all my life. I need to do something else that is more broad.
Okay, interesting. And what do you think you learnt from that kind of profession?
I think I actually build a lot of what I do today. I build on those years. I was 10 years at that law firm. So I think already kind of it was the environment was very changing fast and with a lot of different things on my desk from one angle to the other. So I think that was especially something that really doing so many different things, working for so many different clients, and especially working with so many different industries, really learning to understand what kind of businesses do we have in the world? How do their markets look like? Competition law is a form of law where you actually have to understand markets. You have to understand what products and services there are, what are the competitors, what are the kind of dynamics in the market.
Yeah.
So I think that was really, really interesting. But also seeing all of those as a lawyer, you in a law firm, you have the privilege of really seeing so many different clients in so many different areas. So I think that was one. Then I already then worked with the EU law, so from the European Union. So that was also one more angle. It was not just Finnish law; it was also European Union law, and also following that decision making there and so on. So I think that especially these kind of wide perspectives, understanding different clients, understanding different worlds. I would say that was one of the most important things I learned. I learned a lot, many other things as well, but this is, I think, the most important.
The most important, yeah.
Yeah.
The key takeaway. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, law covers so many different industries and systems and societies and all of that. It makes a lot of sense. But what you're doing now, right? So we met, I don't think we actually talked, but we met in Oulu at the Polar Bear Pitching Conference earlier this year. And you presented on future fit businesses. So what is a future fit business? How does it approach the solving of the world's true problems?
Yes, I think this is one of our really like the big questions that we have right now, especially within business. I think a future fit business is, I talked about changing systems and changing mindsets. So a business that is future fit or wants to be future fit is a business that looks very far into the future, really long term, looks at what does the world really need?
Yeah.
Do we need more stuff? Or do we actually need to fulfill various kind of needs in the world? I mean, there are so many different, I think there is so much in the world that is not yet solved, but instead we produce more stuff or services that are not really needed. We are creating new wants instead of really responding to the world's needs. And then saying also that there are a lot of businesses that also respond to the world's needs. So I'm not saying that every business is like this, but still also these companies might look at their kind of environment and the network and the ecosystem too narrowly. So it's more about fixing symptoms than the real root causes. And I can kind of give an example. It could be, or one example, for example, is that we continue producing a lot of clothes that we don't need and are not that long term. So a kind of a fixing of a symptom would be to do something with the textile waste. So of course, we have to solve the problem with too much textile waste, but it's still solving a symptom instead of the actual kind of root cause. The root cause is that we are producing too much clothes.
Yes.
That's the problem that we should be solving and not trying to just fix the symptoms.
And what do you think is hindering these businesses from doing this effectively?
I think there are many different barriers or what is hindering. Some of them are simply technical, that the market is, it's difficult to operate in the market in a different way than in what it is used to or how it works. But I think that the biggest hindrance is our mindsets. It's what we kind of consider possible and how we think about what should be done. We are very used to this kind of fragmented, siloed thinking where we look at also at our businesses inside out. We're just looking at ourselves like, well, we have this business, we have these services, we have these products, and we just kind of try to sell more of them instead of looking at ourselves outside in, like really looking at the society, at the world, what is actually needed, what are the big problems. And in my own experience working with companies also now in my own entrepreneurship, I can see that it is really hard to do this. I mean, to think broadly. So it's not like anyone on purpose just does kind of the wrong things. It's just our way of looking at the world very narrowly. We, in workshops where we try to look at things more broadly, it really takes time for people to open up their kind of imagination and really looking at themselves from the helicopter perspective, looking at the society from the helicopter perspective and thinking about, well, what could our company do? How could we solve these issues? So I think this is the biggest, our mindsets. We are so used to this mechanistic thinking that things are fragmented piecemeal. So I think that's the biggest problem, really.
Definitely. And staying on this topic is, you said in your prep questions, why do we think we walk around with a blindfold? So what is the reason for this? Why are we ignoring the, as you said, the elephant in the room?
I think it's very human. It's really, really human.
I agree.
On the other hand, it's kind of really the question that we should be working with. And I've been wondering, I mean, at least in my experience, people that I talk to in businesses and elsewhere in society, we are all aware of the planetary boundaries, that they are, we have exceeded 6 of 9 planetary boundaries really hard, and they are actually, we are not even going in the right direction. So every year that we look at these planetary boundaries, we are exceeding them even more than before. Climate emissions are on the rise. Now, actually, for the moment, we also have more poor people in the world. We have more people in the world who are fleeing their homes. So we're going in the wrong direction. And I believe, or my experience is that most people actually know this. If you look at the newspaper any day, you have this knowledge. So I think that most people actually know, they know the facts, that the boundaries are there and we are just exceeding them more and more and more. And that our model of operating is actually not fit for purpose. It doesn't work anymore. And I think this is an elephant in the room, because then again, when you start talking about this, you're very easily actually silenced down. It's like, okay, let's not talk about this. Let's not, I mean, well, next issue. Don't talk about this.
Carry on.
Yeah, carry on. Well, and or then I even hear, for example, managing directors saying to me, CEOs saying that, yeah, I actually know about those planetary boundaries, but there is nothing I can do. I just have to continue business as usual. I know about this, but I can't do anything. So, and if I look at our politics as well, it's also like the elephant in the room that everyone knows. I know that our politicians in this country, for example, they have all the facts about the planetary boundaries. They have all these facts about how unsustainable our world is, but they just carry on as usual. So, so this is like the elephant in the room. And I've been wondering also why we don't talk about it more, but I think it's very human, as I said. It's, I think it can be both scary, but it's also, I mean, it's human to just try to carry on as long as possible without big changes. We all know that the changes are huge that we actually should be doing. On the other hand, what is a bit sad is that now when we are not talking about this and we are not doing really the right actions, is that we are actually postponing what we still have to do. And the more we postpone these actions, the harder and the more expensive it will get. And this is also something that people know, but still we don't do this.
Do anything,
Yeah, and it's of course also, I mean, look at the world right now. Everyone is just trying to save their own, kind of their own world. So being the first one to move is hard. On the other hand, we see companies doing it, and I believe that companies are actually better placed being those first movers, actually showing a new way and doing good business out of it. Because I think that if you are a really truly future fit business that responds to the world's true needs instead of creating new ones, you are going to be very relevant also in 10 years or 15 years. Instead of if you are doing something that we don't really need, you will probably be one of those first ones to get out of business because we're running out of resources. So actually what we see in the world right now, it's actually a war for resources. If we look at these countries globally, how they're acting, it's a war for resources already. So if you are the company who is just creating new wants, I don't think it's very future fit and long-term viable business then.
Yeah. I would like to pose a kind of controversial question to you. And I would like to say that why can't we overcome our planetary boundaries? Wait for it. But could we shift maybe industrial processes off Earth? So an example would be to asteroid mining, that kind of thing. What do you think about that? What are your views?
Yeah, I know that there are people dreaming about this and also trying to do it.
Of course.
I must say that I often feel, and I notice it now as well, I feel a little sad when I hear these aspirations.
Yeah.
Because we have a very beautiful planet here.
Of
that
course.
is really lovely. So it feels sad that we would just kind of leave this and destroy it and leave it and go somewhere else. Instead of really caring for what we already have and what is beautiful and also working quite well. I mean, nature works still.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to clarify that I don't want to just leave Earth. I would like to, kind of do both, if you could say that. But yes. Let's change subjects a little bit and explain to me your opinions on growth and degrowth. What is the difference? What does it mean? What do you think?
And actually, now when you're asking this, it's actually, I get a little back also to your previous question of what is hindering us from actually changing. I think this is one of the things where we think that we can't become sustainable without growth. So, and I understand that fear quite well. And there are very many different opinions and voices on this. I personally think that growth as such is not the problem. We can still grow. Nature grows as well.
Of course. Yes.
But we need to redefine what growth means. I think that's what we need to do. I mean, if there is a company that really responds to the world's needs, then it's a good thing that it grows, because then it responds to these needs even more. So growth as such, for me personally, is not the problem. And I don't think that we need to talk about, degrowth, I'm not saying that it's a good discussion, because it can also open up our mind for other things. And degrowth means very many things actually as well. So it has many different definitions. But growth as such, I think, is not the problem. It's the quality of growth. What are we growing actually?
Yeah.
I talked about the tree, that it would be one of my emojis. And what is interesting with the tree, for example, is that it grows to a certain limit, kind of in height. Then it stops growing in height, but it continues growing, for example, becoming stronger. Its leaves becomes bigger.
I like
its
branches
branches become stronger. Its roots become stronger. So growth for a tree is not just kind of volume.
Not just up.
Yeah, right? It's not just up, but it's very many different things. So I personally think that it's also about redefining growth. And I think that could change a lot of our mindsets if we would start defining growth in a different way. I think it would open up many new business ideas as well, if you kind of would look at growth in this way, instead of thinking that, okay, I'm creating my business, now I just have to kind of grow in volume indefinitely. Nothing grows in nature indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of linearly.
I really love that metaphor. It makes a lot of sense, and I really love that. But throughout the podcast, we've talked a lot about kind of, as you said, topics that people don't particularly want to talk about, right? So I would say not negative, but just generally sad. So I have a kind of bring a bit of positivity, right? So what brings you hope? What gives you agency?
I mean, many things, but most of all, I would say in the past years is that it's not in the headlines in the media, it's not in the evening news, but I meet a lot of people who actually have changed their mindsets, who want to change their mindsets and actually think differently than the kind of the dominating paradigm that society works uh, uh, based on right now. So, and this group of people is growing. I get these signals now more and more, both here in Finland, but also internationally. More and more people are starting to question that, okay, this doesn't really work. We need to do something differently. So this gives me a lot of hope. And actually, as it sounds strange, but this real turbulence, really high turbulence that we are going through right now actually gives me hope as well. Because I've been studying system sciences quite a lot in the past years. If you look at system sciences, actually the point where systems and societies really transform, they are preceded by chaos.
Okay.
So I believe that, I mean, as long as things go relatively well, it's quite stable. Big things don't happen. But then when things start to go wrong and more people actually notice that this is not working for me or for the society, we come into this really turbulent phase, chaotic phase. And this chaos actually gives room for the new. So I believe that we are in a phase right now where the new thing is bubbling under. And I believe that, or I want to be kind of working towards this good bubbling, that the good bubbling under is actually the one that is going to bloom later. So it's a chaotic phase now. It looks really ugly. It might get much uglier, but I believe that, or I can see, because I hear these voices all over the world now, that people really long for something else, something better, something that is different from how we've been operating so far. So this gives room for the new, and I want to be doing my own work together with other people to kind of fill this space with these new good things.
I love that. That is awesome, and I really hope so as well.
Yeah. I don't know when we are there, but
yeah. But now we've entered the part of the podcast which I like to call the zigzag zone. And so I want to know where you are zagging, where everyone else is zigging. So in your prep questions, you talked about more with less and giving yourself time to think.
Yeah.
How are you living this approach?
Yes. One of my mottos in my life, and what I also try to spread to people I meet, is that we could be doing much more by doing less. So really slowing down instead of just running faster. The kind of the big narrative right now is that we have to do even more. We have to run even faster, like just getting the pace up. But I think actually that we should do the opposite, and we should do the opposite and slow down and stop to think, because I actually. We talk about 3 crises in the world: climate crisis, nature loss, and then we talk about inequality. I've been talking about the 4th crisis, which I call the thinking crisis.
Oh, okay.
Our thinking quality is actually not very good right now, because if you're really, really busy and you're running around and you're really stressed and tired, your thinking quality is not very good. It's actually very narrow. It's negative. It sees more threat than opportunities. And it's also like what we see now is that we start to kind of, we become more selfish, and we start to look at more ourselves instead of actually opening up ourselves to society. So I believe that we should slow down, so that our kind of heartbeat gets slower and our minds open up for new things. And then we can actually start cooperating. We start seeing potential. We start seeing all the opportunities. When you're really tired, you don't see the opportunities. You don't see the potential. Even if you would see them, you don't have the energy to work for them. You're just trying to survive the day. So that's why I say that we should, or we could do more by doing less, instead of kind of looking at volume here as well. I talked about the quality of growth. This is basically the same thing. So it's not about doing just more and more and more. It's about doing better.
I like it. It's very much like the opposite of the flight or fright response. So it's like, okay, I like it. That's very interesting. And now it's story time. So I know we covered a bit of already when you became an entrepreneur, but what kind of shifted you? What made you do this? What made you become an entrepreneur? Or did it choose you? Destiny?
Yeah, I think it somehow found me, because up until I decided to become an entrepreneur, I had actually told myself that I will never do it. I was like, whatever I do in my life, I will never, ever become an entrepreneur. And then suddenly I found myself becoming an entrepreneur. It was so that I decided, for many years, I had dreamt and planned to take a leave from work to study. And then I had an opportunity to do it. I was like, this is now I can really do it. I can leave everything behind and just start my studies and use some time just for studies. And then I was like, okay, but now if I'm just doing my studies, I could actually found a company. I have nothing to lose. I was like,
true.
I can just have this company. And then suddenly I found myself working on my website and becoming quite excited about it. And here I am. It was 8 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So it went from absolutely no way to, why not?
Yeah, and right now I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I really love being an entrepreneur.
That's so crazy. But yeah, no, that was really awesome, really interesting. And we've sadly now come to the end of the podcast. But I have 3 final questions for you, which is, imagine it's 2035. What does your life look like? What does your company look like? Where are we?
In 10 years, I hope that my life looks like, that the world has gone through this transformation that I was talking about, that we have woken up from this illusion or dream of continuous material growth to actually looking at growth differently and looking at societies really broadly and responding to needs instead of being part of the problem. So I hope that in 10 years I can be a member of a society that works much more holistically, regeneratively, actually really building capacity in the society so that we can do better quality. And I hope that I would be a member of this kind of society in 10 years.
I hope so too. And then second question is, how can listeners follow along with your journey?
Probably my LinkedIn profile on LinkedIn is the best place. I'm pretty active there, on and off, not all the time, but still posting there myself, and also taking part in the conversations there that I actually like. They're really good. So that's one place, LinkedIn. And then I have a website where I explain my work, where I tell about how I want to help change makers make real impact, responding to these world's needs. I'm a coach and a team coach as well. So I think that my website is also good. There is a blog. Most of the blogs are in Finnish right now, but I know that we also have good AI translators nowadays. So
True. Okay. And last question, how can listeners be useful to you?
I would say that if someone listening here right now is working on the same things that I am, transforming society, making real impact, for kind of a really long-term future, helping the world go through this phase that we are right now, just get in contact with me and then let's discuss what we can do together.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I'm really looking forward to following along with your journey and your company's journey as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great being here.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this week's show. To make sure you don't miss next week's episode, follow us on your favourite podcasting app. Do consider leaving a review as it helps the podcast tremendously.